Welcome to the Second Half Podcast. We are back with another episode. My guy, Garren Strong. I'm excited to have him here. He gets to talk about his journey. For those of you guys tuning in, be sure to hit that like, hit the subscribe button. Follow us on social media at Second Half Podcast. I'm excited for this one. Like another episode, we right back. And this brother's journey is incredible from start to where he is now. So we're about to tap into that. So Garren, G, appreciate you being on, man. Welcome to the podcast.
No doubt. Appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. So let's go ahead and start right into it, man. Where did the journey start? Where you from?
Yeah, so I'm originally from San Jose, California. I grew up there. I was born and raised in Wisconsin, but I only lived there for like 4 years, so I don't really know too much about it. And literally the whole family, including cousins and all that, migrated west when I was 4, and some had left even before then. But I grew up in San Jose, California. Went to high school in a neighboring city in Cupertino, California.
Yep.
Which people know for like Apple and all that.
Yeah, I'm about to say Apple and all that.
Yeah. I went to high school at Homestead High School, played football and basketball there. My first sport actually growing up was soccer.
Okay.
I played that for a minute. I would play that, I think, from 5 to like 15, to where I was like on a traveling team and all that.
Gotcha.
I picked up basketball when I was like 7 or 8, and then football came when I was in middle school. I think I was in 8th grade.
Okay.
And then I played just basketball, football in high school.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So obviously you dove right when you guys got out the San Jose area, you dove right into sport. Like you said, you just jumped in, you were head first. Was there somebody who kind of ushered you in, or did you just kind of pick it up just playing on the streets, or what?
It was, my neighbor got me into soccer. But I think just in general, my family is just a family full of athletes or ex-athletes, and or just a family that loves sports.
Yeah.
Definitely more on the male side. So I grew up with, I don't know how many cousins. I think I have like 10 plus cousins, both male and female. And a lot of them played sports. I probably have more cousins than that, but a lot of them played sports. My dad was an ex-athlete that played, and he grew up in like Chicago area, Evanston. Okay. He played everywhere from hockey to baseball, to track, to basketball.
It was everything.
Yeah. So when I picked up, soccer and all that, it was pretty natural, I think, just from the family background. Every weekend was either watching a college sport or a professional sport. So it was, something that was just natural to me, and something that just was a part of me, I think, from the jump.
Yep. No, I love it, man. I think that, as we know, family can always be that one piece that really pulls you in. I know that's what it was for me. Like, I had cousins that we grew up all together competing against each other. It was like, and our family, like my dad, great uncles, all of them all played professional football and basketball and so forth. So I understand it. I'm right there with you, understanding how that operates for sure. So you play soccer, baseball, basketball, football. When was it that you fell in love with the sport for you, or these two sports? Because you got into high school and you were playing basketball and football.
Right.
When was it that you really fell in love? Yeah.
Like, soccer was dope. I remember vividly of playing soccer, and then I got to a point where basketball and soccer was overlapping, and I was playing both sports. Mm-hmm. And I love basketball, obviously, just because I think everyone does. Just that sport is like something that you can pick up, and if you're good at it and you work at your craft, you can be pretty good fairly fast and start to like separate yourselves from just the rest of the crowd. So I was able to do that really in both sports, but I was never a runner.
Okay.
So I like active running. I always like tell people, like, I like active running. So if I'm going to do something, I'm running, down the court, or if I'm sprinting down the field or something like that. And that like really clicked when I was playing soccer. And we had an off season, and then we're coming back in for conditioning.
Okay.
And I was like, 14 or something like that. And our conditioning test was run 2 miles under whatever specific time. So we ran that, it was cool. Then we played soccer. We got, we practiced. Then the next day, everyone thought we were done with the conditioning
Conditional.
and we had to run it again. Yeah. We had to run it again. And literally when I was running those laps, I was like, I think I'm done with this sport.
Yeah.
I think for me, just got what I needed out of it at the time. And I was more interested in basketball.
Okay.
And my older cousin, and I had a cousin my age that was into football. So I was like, I wanted to get into that sport. So soccer was a first love in the sense of it was the first sport I ever played.
Yep.
Basketball became that because of some of the athletes that are still to this day my favorite athletes of Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. I was Michael Jordan, having ties to the Midwest and my dad. So 90s was MJ. So
exactly.
That became one of my loves. And then as I got into football, was the same time Randy Moss was playing wide receiver.
Man.
And I was always tall and lanky and athletic.
Yep.
And when I went out to try out, it was in 8th grade. And for the longest, my cousins kept trying to get me to play football. My mom was not having it.
Right.
She was like, no.
I ain't going to hurt my baby out there.
Yeah, for real. That's how the conversation was all the time.
Yep.
And once I got out there and she just seen how good I was, like just right off the bat, I think soccer helped with that a lot. Just the footwork and all that.
Right.
And also with basketball. And so once I started playing football, like I never looked back. It became just football and basketball. And as I was going through high school, I was getting recruited more about basketball a little bit at the time because I was playing a guard, so I was a little bit taller in high school. In our area, Chicago, I think obviously is way more competitive and has like the natural height selection of really who should be point guard, who should be playing. But for us, I was 6'2", 6'3", playing like the 1 through 3, 1 through 4. And when football just was something that was even, I think, the most natural of like putting soccer and basketball together and then playing football really gave me that separation that I spoke about of really knowing that I was better than, a lot of the athletes that I was playing with or playing against.
Mm-hmm.
And I just fell in love. Yeah, like just watching the sport. I love the wide receiver position just because I think it's like a beautiful position of the route running, the catching and all that. And as I got into my junior and senior year, that's when a lot of recruiting started to happen. I was getting recruited by majority of the Pac-10 at the time, which is now the Pac-12.
Yep.
Some of the Midwest schools just from my ties there. And then a couple of smaller schools in basketball. But then my senior year, I didn't go out to play basketball, man.
Oh, wow.
And I think we've talked about this before, but around coaching. And I couldn't stand my coach. I couldn't. And at the same time, our gym was getting remodeled. So we had to travel across town to practice.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't really have a car. It was like inconsistent of having a car, like using my mom or whatever. At that time, I was truly wanting to focus on football, so I didn't go out to play basketball my senior year, which I feel like I should have just played. Mm-hmm. But in hindsight, ended up getting a scholarship at Oregon and all that. So I know that was a long-winded question, but
no.
I think there was parts of my life that I fell in love with, like each sport, to then get into football, where I love that sport till this day because it definitely has molded me to the man I am today.
Yeah. No, I think, you hit something that really triggers, because, we look at kids now that are coming up through high school and middle school, and a lot of them become one sport athletes, right? And they're just simply focused on basketball or football or softball or, whatever that one sport is. But like you said, like you were able to take skills from these other opportunities, such as soccer, that helped you build your footwork as you needed for basketball and football. You know what I mean? It also helped you with the conditioning that you hated to also get you through those long-winded sprints and runs, and those quick burst hits with football, which I think are incredibly important as you're developing your skill set of being an athlete. So that's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah. And
something.
a lot of it, you think about just hand-eye coordination, foot, hand-eye coordination, all that plays a part. Working hard, everything that an athlete maybe sometimes take for granted of the little things. And
Yep.
that's where, you start to really like bring those skills in together to really hone in on your craft, whatever sport it is. And for me, I always thought that the more athletic you are, the better chance you have out on the field or court because just how you can move, the different things that you can take mentally from other sports to put you in a position to actually have an advantage on your opponent or whatever it may be is like, that's why I love, like, my favorite athlete of all time is Deion Sanders.
Mm.
Just because the duality, and I think, what made him a DB what also made him a baseball player, and what made him a baseball player made him one of the best DBs
Yeah.
ever. So, uh,
No.
just,
So
yeah, that athletic ability, man.
absolutely, you're spot on. I think there's something because if I remember, you were in high school from a football standpoint. You were both safety and wide receiver. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you was being
I played
recruited
wide
for.
receiver. Yeah, yeah. I played wide receiver, DB, and safety. And I was actually a pretty good like safety just because my range. I was
Yeah.
lanky,
Yep.
I was fast, so I can cover like sideline to sideline. One of the things I wasn't trying to do as much as hit.
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy just playing football. I was like, wait, you don't
I'm a
like hitting
football
it?
player,
Well,
but I don't like to hit. Like, yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. But there was ways of going around that, or like with me, I had the ball in my hands, so catching it and running and all that and getting tackled is one thing, but
Yeah.
like coming down every day, play and trying to hit was not the thing. So when I was getting recruited, um, I was going to go to this particular school, but they wanted me at wide receiver, and then they came back and was like, hey, we actually want you as a safety. And
Mm,
right then and there, I was like, yeah, I'm not playing safety in
yeah.
college. So that's a no go. And then going to a different school. So
So what
yeah,
was?
play both.
Got you. Okay. So I guess let me before we even get to the recruiting process, 'cause I definitely want to find out what that was like. Because I think everyone's is very interesting. There's a couple things because I actually just episode before this was with Jeremy Smith, and one of the things he said that him and his coach just did not get along, and it was
Yeah,
something, And I think that there's something that is just there's something about that I think that carries a lot of weight because you aren't always going to like the people that you either play for or necessarily the people you're on the court with. But at the same time, like you're learning how to operate within this structure with one simple goal and task ahead that I think honestly you use that even also later in life. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah. And for me, it was obviously being 16 at the time, 17 at the time, probably a bit immaturity on my
Right.
end. But
That's
I
usually what comes
also,
with it. It's like actually
yeah,
looking back on it,
yeah.
it's like, you were young and stupid, like we
But I
usually are.
also
Yeah.
had, yeah, and I also had one of the things that I had something to fall back on was like, again, like I had a plan of
Mm,
that as like football. Like I was just going to focus my time in the football. So
yep.
basketball, if I knew I wasn't going to college for basketball, or if I knew I wasn't going to really get as recruited as much as I was getting in football, the thought process has been kind of the same for me. Is like seeing a bigger vision or just having something or a direction to go towards. So once myself and the coach was button head, and to be honest, like he wasn't a really good coach,
Okay.
and other guys on the team would say so. But I had football as well to play,
Right.
to go to a sport. Um, but it did teach me in hindsight of working through some of those things, especially if that's the only option, just to get to where you need to get to for that next step.
Yeah.
Is kind of sucking it up and like doing the work that you need to, and knowing that this person or this coach is only going to be in your life possibly just for a period of time, and to do as much as you can on your side to handle what you need to handle to get to where you need to get to. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't let someone be such a distraction or such a roadblock that it takes you away from your dreams or your goals or what you have planned for yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, yeah, looking back, and if I would have had to tell myself something back, and it was like, if you really wanted to play that sport, go and play that sport. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like, especially if there was something on the back end that was going to get you to college or going to get you wherever else in life.
Yeah.
Play that sport, because basketball season 3 or 4 months.
Right.
So I could have did that and been good, but
Yeah.
I had a different vision for myself
Yeah.
at that time and a different focus.
Got you. Got you. So that's always great to hear because a lot of people don't understand the importance of just setting and building and executing a plan. And I think that when you hear somebody actually doing that, even as far back as high school, people don't realize how important that is because that sets you up beyond you're already being intentional about what your vision is. You know what it is you want to go get, and it puts it right there in the front of your mind of like, hey, this is what I'm going to attack, and this is how I'm going to
Right.
get it. And I know I need to get up at 5 and go work out, so you know all the steps that you need to take because you already have that vision and plan it in your mind, which is awesome.
Yep.
For sure, man. So tell me a little bit about that recruiting process. So football, the focus, that's the vision. You obviously started to dwindle things down from soccer to basketball to now really focusing on football. We know you obviously ended up at Oregon, but what was that like? You said what was the school? The Pac-12? Was it just all West Coast schools that were really in your ear, or did you get a few Midwest or down south
Yeah,
schools?
yeah. I got again majority of the Pac-10 at the time because we didn't have Utah and Colorado in the conference.
Right.
So from the UWs to Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, obviously Oregon, Arizona State. So
Mm.
the only schools that really didn't recruit me were like UCLA a little bit, but USC didn't really recruit me.
Okay.
And then Illinois, I remember Fresno State. I remember like Georgia Tech,
Gotcha.
uh, Texas A&M. I want to say was a part of it as well. Like,
Nice.
so there was a few schools that I was being recruited by. For
Yeah.
me, I'm a West Coast boy. Like, I just love the West Coast, but I did want to try something to get out of like California,
Yeah.
but not too far. So the list came down really to the Pacific Northwest at the time. It was
Okay.
like UW, Washington
Yeah.
State, Oregon were the three schools. I liked Arizona.
Yeah.
Didn't really think too much of Arizona State. And from there, like just going on a couple of trips, official trips, and what connected me to Oregon was really there was a lot of cats from the Bay Area on the
Mm.
team or from California.
Okay.
So that, I felt at home, like just talking with some of the older players. The coaching staff had like a pipeline to the Bay
Oh
Area, so they
yeah.
were cool. I think one of the coaches' brother like coached at De La Salle,
Okay.
so there was a lot of cats from like the East Bay. And then again, going back to just having some type of vision. I don't know where it comes from, to be honest, but always having like some type of intention for what I was doing or where I wanted
Yeah.
to go.
Yep.
And I knew I wanted to get into like sports management or marketing. I didn't know what that was. Like at the
Yeah.
time, it was like I want to own a football team
Yeah.
or I want to be an agent or something like that.
Yeah.
If I don't make it to the league, and yeah, it was pretty like I think my recruiting process was pretty simple. It was traveling to the schools, sitting down, understanding, where I can fit in. Did I vibe with the coaches or the players?
Yep.
What was happening on the academic side? Just as far as like, is there going to be something that I was interested in?
Yeah.
And I chose Oregon. And this was before the time that like the uniforms were crazy,
Yeah.
before we were like Oregon Jays and all that. So I wish I could have been like, yeah, I went because of the dope uniforms and
Yeah.
because of the shoes and all that. But we still were like ahead of that.
Yeah.
But our uniform selection and all that wasn't
You
anything
didn't. Yeah, you
crazy.
didn't have 99
When
options
I
a
was getting,
season.
yeah, when I was getting recruited, like we had a third alternate uniform, which
Okay.
was crazy at the time. So yeah, from there, decided to go to Oregon and played there, redshirted my freshman year, and then played for 4 years.
Gotcha. Nice. 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 So you got there on campus. Did you have any, like, was it like that shock value that hit you? I'm like, man, I'm actually playing here at Autzen, or like, was it any like nervous energy, or were you like, hey, I'm here, like, let's get after it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I came up to Oregon early, like during the summer before fall camp, and we had to report to camp. And when I came up there, I was coming up there just to like chill a couple of weeks before fall camp started. And I remember I stepped on the field just to watch. They were going through like 7-on-7 and 1-on-ones.
Mm-hmm.
And the quarterback at the time was Kellen Clemens.
Mm.
And he was like, yo, you're new here, right? Freshman. I'm like, yeah. He's like, where's your cleats at? Where's your gloves at? I'm like, I just came to watch you guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was like, no, we're not doing this. So he was like, go into the equipment room, get some cleats and gloves, and come back out here. So I went in there, got out there back on the field, and I remember the first play, there was an older cat that he was one of those DBs that, or just one of those upperclassmen that were like an asshole.
Yeah.
And you know me, like this is my first college play in a sense, and I remember coming off the line and getting like kind of jammed up, and that was like right away.
Just first play out, first time.
Yeah. Like you're in college now, you know. Coming from high school, the competition was the competition,
right.
But in college, you know, everything filters as you get higher and higher. Yeah. From that day, like I made it a point that wasn't going to happen again, like that I wasn't going to be prepared.
Right.
That was like just not being prepared, and yeah, it was cool. Like it took me some time. I can definitely tell you, again, you being an athlete, especially coming from high school and being known as one of the better players on the team or in the section, city, area, state, all that. And although I loved playing football and working on my craft, one thing I wasn't really into at the time, and this was a thing, you know, too, because we're around the same age, is that lifting weights wasn't really a thing,
right.
You know, like we lifted, but it wasn't crazy. And as I got into college, that became a thing.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Guys that are been around and been lifting and playing and training and all that for a while. And so that took me some time to just get used to, because I was playing off of like raw athletic ability.
Yeah.
And that only can take you so far.
It only gonna get you. It's real. It's like, oh yeah, I got a 35-inch vertical. I can get up with everybody. Yeah, but it's different when they got that little extra.
I was gonna say, you got everybody else that has now a 35-inch vert. Man. You know what I mean? It goes back to that. And so from there, one of the things that also took time was like just the health side of things. I think, you know, my career was plagued with a lot of injuries, a lot of just nagging injuries from like hamstrings to high ankle sprains to whatever it may be, that my career didn't go as planned, but I was supposed to be starting every year for my freshman year on.
Okay.
And an injury either in fall camp right before the season or in spring ball would always like slow that process down to where, you know, my healthiest season was truly my senior year.
Okay.
Everything else like start and stop. And, you know, it was frustrating for me, especially knowing the ability, and even your own teammates are telling you like, yo, you're like the nicest wide receiver on the squad, and this and that. Not being able to show it.
Yeah.
It was the most frustrating thing.
I'm sure.
Where, you know, you get into my sophomore year and just a lot of it wears down on you mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that are out of your control in the sense of not being able to play. What was in my control was like actually stretching, lifting, and all of that. That again, like it took me some time to really understand
the real preparation, the nutrition you need to put into your body and really build into it and pour into yourself. Yeah, people love to neglect that piece, and that's an important part of like, you got to pay attention to what your body is telling you. both the
Right.
mental side as well as the physical side. And, when
Yeah.
and that's the part that I think that the early on that athletes can understand that side of it, the better off they'll be in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what makes, I think, loving or me being able to see what's going on today with these athletes that are coming out of high school, college, and all that is like just everything has evolved, just like life has, and for them to get trainers or nutritionists early on, and or at least just to understand what they should be doing, because not everyone has the money to do so,
Right.
but you have control of what you're eating. You do have control of what how you're working out and training and all that stuff. And so it's dope to see how fast things have evolved, because I would say even like towards the back end of my college career, we have brought in like a true nutritionist, as well as our regimen had shifted. We had Coach Kelly, who came in as like our offense coordinator, and like just lifting had shifted for us and things like that, to where I went back a couple of years after that, and like they had just a whole new program that a lot of these athletes were benefiting from, because
Yep.
it was catering them specifically.
Yep.
They had PS systems on them, all types of shit
Oh,
that was like
wow.
crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I mean, just like you said, that evolution of just life, but also just where we are and how like technology becoming, a main factor of keeping you healthy, keeping you on the field. Like, I think I
right.
was watching some commercial and I'm like, yeah, we got, chips in the pads and the helmets to like understand
Yeah.
like the impact of, it's
Right,
crazy to
right,
think
right,
about
right.
where you're at. So, I think technology has definitely shifted and the growth is incredibly important. And I think a lot of these young athletes now are able to be just as aware early on in their career now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something you spoke on for sure that I think is incredibly important is that mental health piece, right? You had quite a few setbacks with your injuries, and we know a lot of times that happens with many of our athletes today, whether collegiate, high
Right.
school, whatever. Then becomes that mental blockage. I think that happens. Of what now? What? How do I get out of this? What was that for you? That like really turn it on for you of like keeping your mind focused on what your plan was and your goal?
Right, right. For me, it was just something that I was just dedicated to not only showing folks around me, like my teammates and all that, but like also just my family, and why I went to Oregon, and why I'm playing that position, or why I'm on the team and all that. Was how I drove myself, was like just to show even myself, really. I think most importantly is like, I know I have this talent. I know every time I step on the field I can do this.
Yep.
The injuries is just stopping me from really showing and being that dude that I know I am, and that even the teammates have seen. And my teammates, I think, was a factor of just being able to talk through things and just being around like good people,
Yep.
because it was more on me and hanging out with them than it was like any of the coaches that like pulled me aside to say, hey, let's do this and that. And at the time, mental health wasn't a thing, or hasn't really been a thing since the last 6 or 7 years, in the sense of like truly calling it what it is. Before, it was just like you having to work through things, or you having to like take a break, but that break is what, a day, 2 days, maybe a week, if that,
Right.
not even. So it was always like, if I can just get healthy, was
Yeah.
always my mind, and like when I am out there, show everyone what it is.
Mm.
And it, yeah, it was that. Like, I can't really think too much of like if there was anything that I landed on, or like pushed me through, to that just separated it from like the way I went about business or anything like that. I think it was just more of like making sure that I started to do the right things, and how can I, like, to your point, prepare myself
Yeah.
better, that these injuries wouldn't happen, and talking with folks more on a just personal level,
Yeah.
and thinking so much about sport and what does it mean that I'm injured in the NFL and all that. Like,
Yeah.
that wasn't the thing. Like, I knew like I just had to perform if I wanted to make it to the next level.
Right. Right. No, I love it. Yep. That's important there. Like again, that vision is there. You obviously you said you still had that family support, which is always incredible to have. You always need that. Just people to just keep pushing you more than just your teammates, your coaches. Really know who you are. So that's always I love hearing that part of just understanding that family dynamic. So obviously you are a planner. Senior year, even before we even get to the plan, like, well, I need to know, like, what was the game or two that you were able to just, like, you went ham in? Like, I want to know that type of, like, what was that most memorable game that you had playing on the field?
Man, to be honest, I think just our entire senior year was something that was just like a high.
Yeah.
Although it didn't pan out the way that it should, we ended up with like 9 starters going down with like season-ending injuries.
Wow. Yeah.
Dennis Dixon being one of them. Like he was like the last one to get injured, but obviously probably the most important one or the one that like just the straw that broke the camel's back in the sense of he was the starting quarterback, Heisman in the Heisman race. We was on our way to win the national championship before he went down. But I would have to say, actually, we played in the Sun Bowl against South Florida,
Okay.
and did pretty well. Just like feeling good. We had that extra break in between Christmas and all that to like get fully healthy,
Yep.
work on a game plan. But to be honest, it was just a joy in the sense of having fun my senior year, being healthy, only having one class to go to during, during the season. So I couldn't complain. Like I don't have any, again, because of the injuries and all that, like
Yeah.
I was up and down with like actual games and all that. But I would have to say just my overall senior year
Yeah.
and team that we had, I still say to this day is probably the best Oregon team ever to touch the field as like a cohesive team
Yeah.
of what we're doing. This is the first year that Coach Kelly came in. We started running the no huddle.
Yeah.
Teams didn't know what to do with it, faking injury,
Right.
timeouts. Yeah.
You saw
So we
everything
had
happen.
our senior year was popping. So I would say just my overall senior year was the best time of my college career.
Got you. Okay, that's good to know. So senior year comes to a close. Obviously, you guys didn't reach where you guys wanted to get to, but obviously, y'all seem to have had a lot of fun on the field and probably off the field
Yeah,
too.
awesome for sure.
Being at the top at that time for sure, absolutely. So being that planner, what was it? What was the plan then after for you? What was next after that senior year?
So really like planning isn't really my thing, but more of just a vision. And
Okay.
I think it's different because I didn't know what it was going to take to get to wherever I needed to get to. I just knew that I was going to get there some way,
Yeah.
somehow. Like just having the vision of like, I'll be there at some point. And so for me, even transitioning out was, again, Oregon is known for Nike and just being a part of
Wow.
that brand and coming from that family that Phil Knight used to be our in our locker room every game, home and away, and that's just how passionate he is for the Ducks.
Yeah.
Like he just loves the Ducks. Like as much as people want to say it's a Nike school, this and that, it's truly because of just his
It's
passion
passion.
personally
Yeah.
for he went to school there. He wants to take care of the program or the school that given him so much
Yeah.
after his career. Coach Bowerman, all that story. Like
Yeah.
you start to understand why he does what he does
Hmm.
is truly out of the love for the program. And I remember coming off my senior year out of Washington State. We played Washington State, and it was me and another teammate. We had made it into the locker room before everyone else, and he's standing in there again, waiting to greet us all and all that. And I decided to actually formally introduce myself. I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, He's like, "Oh, I know who you are," and like I know he knows us just
Yeah.
because of
Being
the
with you
game. I
guys all
was
the time. Yeah.
yeah. And I was just like, "Yo, I want to just formally introduce myself." And I don't know why I said this or what, but I was like, at some point, I want to come and work for Nike.
Mm.
And I think because again, going back to like, I'm a very like observant and self-aware person of like getting to the league was going to be tough. Just,
Yep.
I didn't really have too much of consistent film. Injuries were a thing. I can, yeah, try my way at going to a combine and doing all of that, and then possibly getting picked up late rounds, if not free agency, getting bounced around from teams. Like it just, how it played out in my head wasn't the way that I've
Yeah.
seen. So from there, I started to think about what's next, and I knew I wanted to be in still in the sports world. At the time, again, I started to learn more about the sport culture and the businesses that are inside sport and what can be an
Yeah.
alternative as I was going through because I majored in sports marketing or sports management, so I got to case studies and
Hmm.
hear about all these things that are going on. So when I told him that, he was like, "Yeah, reach out to Jim Barco, who was our assistant AD at the time."
Okay.
And he's like, "Yeah, follow me, go reach out to Jim Barco, and you should have something set up for you, or just go and talk with him."
Okay.
So I did that. Like I showed up probably like that following Wednesday or Thursday, not thinking anything was going down.
Right.
I went in there, and he's like, "Yeah, Phil told me you were going to stop by, and we're working on an internship for you at Nike." And so from there, I basically got an internship through, introducing myself
You-
to Phil Knight.
Wow.
And even that transition was a little bit rough though, because after I graduated, they didn't have the internship really ready.
Hmm.
And so I had to like work around the school because I couldn't go back home in the
Right.
sense of I go back home, there was nothing for me, waiting for me back at home or any type of jobs or anything. Um, So I worked in like I think it was called like the Duck Athletic Fund, which was like working with like donors, and
Okay.
I remember just emailing donors every day and having to do like those cold calls
Yeah.
because it was I didn't get money from
Yeah.
donors and all that, and waiting just for that caller when that internship was ready to actually go and work at Nike or have an internship at Nike.
Nice, man. No, I definitely want to get into that. That's something to be said. It's like if you don't open your mouth up, you never know what can happen. And like you said,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
necessarily a plan, but it's a vision. And you knew you wanted to work in sports management, sports marketing, something in that filter in that lane, like you said, whether it's an agent, owner of a team. And all of a sudden, this opportunity presented itself, literally right in front of you, showing up, going
right.
into the locker room, and taking that first step. A lot of people don't understand, like, it's just about first just opening up your mouth and deciding, you know what, I'm going to go after this. I'm going to go get it. And the worst thing they can say is no.
Right,
That's
right.
it.
And just having the confidence of who you are and putting yourself in that position.
Yep,
And if it's something that you really want to get into and what you want, then you got to do those things to get to it. So
for sure.
yeah,
For sure. All right, before we get into the second half, let's take a little quick, what I like to call a 30-second timeout with Garren. So I'm going to ask you 10 questions just off the top. I know in a few things, so some fun ones in here. I'm actually interested in what you'll say for a few of them, but we'll start off. We'll keep this first question. We'll keep it light. So one, what's your favorite food?
Italian
Italian. Okay. What was your pregame routine?
pregame routine would be when we got to the stadium, go and get a massage. Um, Try to get out on the field early. Well, listen to music. Basically, music really played through from the time we got on the bus all the way through
Okay.
till kickoff.
Okay.
It was a lot of music, but getting on the field, just like if we were away to see, to get a feel for the field, whether it was grass or turf. On our field, it was just more of like just the energy to start to like get that feeling and kind of visually think through some of the plays that we're running, run a few routes, come back, chill at the locker or in our by our lockers,
Yep.
um, and just connect. Yeah, music really was
Got
the
you.
driving factor, I would say, for pregame.
Okay, got you. All right. Speaking of music, obviously, you were born on December 4th. same date as
Yeah.
somebody else you know. So, what's your
Got it.
favorite Jay-Z album?
That's a tough one. I got to go with Reasonable Doubt.
Okay.
I go with Reasonable Doubt, but close to that is The Blueprint because The Blueprint was when I was like, I want to say in middle school.
Okay.
And remembering, no, was that? No, that was high school.
Okay.
Um, just the sound of that album was just crazy to me.
Yep.
Obviously the bars but also, how he even just put that together and sequenced and like just the different things that were going on at the time. You had the takeover, which was shots at Nas and all that, but
Yep.
then you also had Song Cry.
Yep.
Like
You saw the
that album was just
vulnerability and all those different things. Just a different
right.
vibe. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
you know what? Another album that's I know this is supposed to be quick, but another
No, you
album
good.
that I just remember where I was, what was going on was Volume 3. And I just remember that's where I was like I was a teenager and my older cousin used to come and pick me up on Saturdays and Sundays to go play basketball like at the parks and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an old school Mustang. And I remember it
Mm.
coming around the corner and it would be knocking Volume 3 and just how clear it sounded in like the speakers that he had in the Mustang. The
Yeah.
Mustang is a dope 65, I think it was 65, 66.
Okay.
Just that album holds like more like sentimental, like nostalgia to me as well. But
Mm.
yeah, I would have
Okay.
to say Reasonable Doubt closely followed by Blueprint.
Okay. All right. Cool. Speaking of Mustangs, what's your dream? And knowing that what you got something nice in the garage, what's your dream car?
Man, there's two. There's this one that is I'm trying to get the year right. It's a 82 Aston Martin
Mm.
Vantage, which is dope. And then there's I don't know if you've seen like the old school Lamborghini trucks.
Yep.
I think it's
Yeah.
like an 88. Those
Okay.
are like, I just like
Yeah.
classic cars. So those would be
Those are the two.
my
Okay.
dream.
All right. Okay. All right. A little bit back to the music space. So, what's one album or artist you can listen to forever?
The
The
album
only
I can listen
artist
to
or
forever,
album.
Victory Lap would be the album I can listen to forever, but it got to be Hove that I can listen to
Gotcha. Okay.
as an artist.
Okay.
Yeah,
For sure. All right. What's the best vacation or country you've been to?
Dubai.
Okay. Um,
Dubai.
what was your favorite shoe or cleat to play in?
The Vapor, one of the first Vapors. We actually had because Nike would come down and we would get to sample and wear test some of
Oh,
the
right.
cleats and all
Oh,
that.
before they even hit.
So we had the Vapor. Yeah, we had the Vapor before it dropped. And we used to get in trouble because they left those shoes with us and we would wear them in games and we would just spat.
Spat them all over.
they came down and, yeah.
You got
But
a
that was the
whole.
best cleat. Everything else, like I didn't really find a good cleat in college for me that felt like super light and truly comfortable until I put on like the Vapor.
Vapor. Okay, I got you. All right. Question I asked Jeremy too on the episode before this. Uh, Fun question: is she 5'2" or is she 5'2"? Which one?
Man, fine too.
Okay. All right. All right. The toughest person you ever had to play against?
It was our secondary at Oregon actually.
Really?
So it was Jarris Bird, Patrick Chung, Matt Harper, Walter Thurman, and I'm missing somebody. But those would be the toughest. That was all in one secondary.
Wow. Whoever quarterback was on the other side, it was just probably getting
Yeah,
frustrated.
three of the four of them all made it to the league. Just how athletic they were and how
Yeah,
smart they were.
man, that's crazy. All right, last question. As we'll get into this space, but what was your favorite product that you designed?
Favorite product that I designed would have to be, man, um, I go between the collection that we did for Fearless Ones with like all the Air Jordan ones,
Okay.
or like the new beginnings with the 85 and the Airship P.
Mm,
Those probably would be two of my favorite. If I had to choose one, probably the Airship PE because it's still the Airship PE and the 85 still has yet to really unlock
yeah.
uh, the next level of like ones and
Right.
classic shoes for
Yeah.
Jordan. So, yeah,
Okay. Got you. Cool, man. Yeah, that's 30 seconds, real quick, a little 30-second timeout I like to do. Just kind of get to know you a little bit more, but yeah, let's go ahead and shift into really what the purpose of this podcast is about, the second half, right? You transition, you were able to get the internship all from really a quick conversation with Phil Knight, which then transitioned you to be able to now go work at Nike, which is great. So tell me about that first stop that you had with Nike.
yeah. So my internship, I was in brand marketing at the time it was called field sports. So it was like football, baseball, and lacrosse. And I did that for a year. And this was in '09 when the market started to crash and we had a recession and all that stuff. That I actually had to leave because there was no full time job. So I ended up going back to Oregon and also something that I wanted to see if I wanted to get into coaching.
Yeah.
So I did a recruiting internship. It was Coach Kelly's first year as head coach there. And he allowed me to come back and be in the recruiting office and all that. Wasn't feeling like it was a great experience,
Uh-huh.
but the time that college coaches put in and me coming out of college wasn't it, man. It didn't match up. Like
You're in there quite a
being
bit.
there like 5:30 in the morning, leaving at like 7 p.m.
Yep.
I just finished doing that,
Yeah.
playing football, going to school and all that. And so from there I had the opportunity to go back up to Nike because I just kept my relationships and network. Like I would try to bounce up there whenever I had time, like if we had a bye week
Yep.
or if some of the guys were coming down to talk to some of the players, just to keep that conversation open to where there was a role that opened up as a specialist on the actual Nike football team at the time. It was FBAT, football, baseball,
Yep.
athletic training.
Yep.
Did marketing specialist at that time and was on the team, both global brand marketing for football and athletic training for about 5 or 6 years, like specialist to associate and all that.
Yep.
Did that for 6 years. And I was at a crossroads, man, of leaving because of, again, it goes back to just coaching and or managers. And I didn't have the best manager at
Mm,
Nike on the backside of my brand marketing time. Like when I first got in there, it was love. Like a lot of ex athletes that were working it. It was a fairly new group because
mm-hmm.
Nike had reorg
Yep.
and had some great leaders in like a David Schreiber and a Chris Amon that really helped me transition and put me into a position of really adding value and being effective on the team. Like
Yeah.
look to me to really bring those authentic athlete insights as
Yep.
well as use the marketing side of my brain and taught me so much to where I thought I was going to be a lifer for a
Yeah.
minute just because of
Yeah.
how much like, we had all types of things going on. Like there was field days, athletes were coming, professional athletes
Yep.
were coming in,
Uh-huh.
going to the Super Bowl,
Yep.
going to
You enjoy
national
you haven't
championship,
yeah, I get
all of that.
it.
And as that happened and, people got new roles, the team started to shift. There was just a bad manager on that I had to work with that put me in another position. And I think the company started to shift at the time.
Okay.
So from there, I wanted to get into product. That was like my last kind of chance of like, if I can get into product, I think I could do this for another whatever amount of years.
Yep.
Because I was always told like I had somewhat of like a product eye and that you should try to get into product. Like although marketing is cool and it's fun and all that, it's like product is where the business is ran. And, on campus, everyone would say product is king. And it's hard to understand that when you're in the marketing. It's like, yo, I'm doing all the dope shit and
Activation,
yeah.
creativity, dealing with the athletes, all you telling the stories that go along with the product. Yeah.
Right. But so I'll get to that. But there was a guy by the name of James Conley who had worked in apparel in football. And I would always go by his desk and talk with him and give him insights around like gloves or apparel and all that, to where he had moved into innovation. And he was like, hey, I know you're looking to try to get out of marketing into product. I have this stretch assignment that you can do for the next 6 to 8 months. And then hopefully from there, something opens up on the product side that you can get into. So I did the stretch, and it was all around like athlete insights and working with athletes and how to make them better through innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, there was a role that popped open called Jordan. It was a Jordan PLM for athletic training footwear.
Okay, product line manager, right?
Yep, product line manager. It was the first of its kind because Jordan was looking to get into, or brand Jordan was looking to get into training, like as a business opportunity.
Yeah.
So both apparel and footwear. So I went for that, got it just off of, my background and all of that. And did that for a year. There was a lot of like transition and reorgs happening in footwear for the time that I was there. So I did that for a year. They went away from the business of training or it being a focus just in 1 year.
Yep.
I then was moved into sportswear, and I was managing everything outside of retros and Jordan 1s. So from what kind of shoes? The like Pro Strong, the Team Jordan collection, like all of those, as well as like some other like models. And then from there was another reorg that happened, and I got onto retros for a minute and Jordan 1s.
Okay.
Did that for like 6 months, I want to say. We had added resources, another little mini reorg, to where I sat down with my director at the time, and he was like, yo, what do you want to get into? Like, what do you want to focus on? And at the time, no one was looking at Jordan 1s being separate from retros. Like they were saying, 1 through all this. But if you look at the business at the time, it's like, yo, the Jordan 1 has all these different models already in it as like a franchise.
Yep.
And then each retro has its shoe and needs to have its story and all that. So I told him, like, I remember having this conversation with him. He's like, yeah, you can do, if you want to do whatever you want. I was like, let me just focus on Jordan 1s. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, let me just focus on the Jordan 1 because of all these different models. Let me focus on that. And then the person that was coming in can handle all the rest of the retros.
Right.
And tell those stories. And yeah, did that for 3 years and
built out
created a $1 billion business.
Exactly. All just within ones. Because I know my closet is filled with nothing but ones. You know what I mean? So, no, that's crazy. I mean, how did you, like, even for yourself, like, what was that inspiration? Like, I know that this is exactly what did you actually take, like, I'm going to take the business model and say I want to, or was this like, this is a favorite shoe of mine, so this is the one that I really want to focus on?
Yeah. And a little bit of that, like the transition, I think, I know you had asked that again, like, how was that process transitioning? Like, the process was fairly smooth because I was prepared.
Yep.
It goes back to what I was saying in college, first stepping on the field and not being prepared, that when I got into these moments or these situations that I was going to be somewhat prepared or at least know what I was doing or what I was trying to do. And so the transitions happening through my career at Nike were always something that I had in my mind, or like, if I had this opportunity, I knew I was going to do this or I was going to try to get here. I got to connect with this person to get here. You know, like the whole networking thing that has to happen sometimes for you to get these roles and all that. And I would always observe and connect with the footwear people just because, again, I like footwear in football. So getting it over into actually footwear, like I had a sense of footwear. I had really none of the technical terminology and all that, but I knew enough to at least get through the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And so as I started to observe and get into Jordan and see kind of the opportunities, and when like the whole retro and Jordan 1 thing happened, the conversation happened, a lot of it came from looking at the opportunity that was happening, and definitely selfishly, the Jordan 1 is my favorite shoe. So it was a mix of both. Like if I can get this Jordan 1 to pop off because nobody's paying attention to it.
Right.
And at the time it was when like Kanye wore it on the sidelines or at Fashion Week or something like that. But still internally no one really
was rocking with it like
took that opportunity. Yeah. And so as we sat down and we worked through what that was, again, just going back to what can happen a year from now, 3 years from now, and all that. And I was like, the Jordan 1 is doper than the Air Force 1 to me. Right. Obviously, I get culturally the Air Force 1 and what it means to culture. But as far as me and something that's sleek, goes back to me, classic, like it just fit also me as a person and like personality.
Yep.
It's like, I want to make this bigger than the Air Force 1, or at least be more popping in culture that people were like, yo, I need the next Jordan 1, or so yep. That was kind of the plan and the vision. And then the business came from that of working with the team, understanding what was happening. I looked at it as like, kind of like, I've never been in the streets like that, but my dad like was somewhat like of a hustler in the sense of just hustle, just the term of hustling. Mm-hmm. I'll say that. And obviously Hove, listen to music and all that, like just the inspiration around like kind of came out through that shoe and that business and like how it became what it became.
Yep.
And just thinking through of like, how to make 1 and a 2, how do you make 2 and a 4? Well, the thing is like, how do you build a entire business, a franchise that everybody's eating off of, or like the shoe, and each model has its place in the streets or in culture.
Yep.
And what it means. And, a lot of people, and we're going to go on a little bit of tangent, but a lot of people like don't understand why we're doing mids or why there's lows and all that. It's like, not everyone has $170 to spend like you. Not everyone is a sneakerhead like you do, but there are folks that want to be a part of the brand, that want to be connected to Jordan, that wants to have their dream or their piece of, I remember the first time I bought this.
Yes.
And
whatever form it actually comes in, like you said, whether it's low, mid, or high, whatever that is.
Right. And it was building out that to where from price range to models to distribution, all of that intertwined to create the franchise that it is today.
That's crazy. That's awesome, man. I mean, that's a huge feat. I mean, to really come in the way that you came in grinding your way through, hustling, if you will, sitting in conversation, interning, moving around a little bit, understanding the importance of having the right coaches, the right mentors around you that can really fulfill where you're trying to get to. And then you finally do it. But not only do you just show up, you actually make an impact. Like you created something that you believed in to now that really is all about legacy at that point. You know what I mean?
And the big thing about that, Jay, too, is that there wasn't a lot of people that believed in me in the sense of going from marketing to footwear. That was unheard of in the sense of like only every time I would talk and sit down and talk with somebody, it was like, nah, a lot of people don't do that crossover, or it's kind of tough because it's two different lanes in Nike, or in marketing you're supposed to go this way,
Yep.
and product the same thing, or like bouncing around. And
Yep.
so the conversations were met with a lot of resistance. Like I had even one of my managers or directors when I was coming from marketing trying to get into footwear, that kind of who once was like kind of just helping and like advising and all that, to kind of just like had his hands off of like knowing what to do with me and all that, to then getting into the footwear. I think the footwear was a little bit more brutal than anything that I've probably experienced, in the sense of the type of politics and the type of people and the energy that was brought around, um, that were on my team
Yep.
in leadership positions, that it was crazy to me, of like just ego
Yeah.
and having their own way or whatever it
Politics
may
as
be.
usual.
Yeah, yeah. To
No.
where, even getting to the Jordan 1 and sitting down with my director, or even working with the retros, there was a person that was managing at the time the footwear side of things, that questioned if I was even like the right guy to manage the retros
Mm-hmm.
and um, some ones. And in my head, it's like, who are you? I get
Yeah.
that you are what you are in the position that you are, but at the same time, the work that I've put in shows.
Right.
And having confidence in myself, and knowing that if I had this opportunity, I wouldn't let it go.
Yeah.
That, to your point, I'll build something that lives on beyond me,
Yep.
and that is a legacy. Like I can truly say that my time working on those ones is like etched in stone for wherever the business
It's
goes,
there.
because it went from just one shoe of everyone wanting just a Jordan 1 high OG, to $1 billion, like I said, brand that everyone's wearing lows, mids, and highs, that are celebrities and entertainers
Yep.
that they don't even know they're wearing sometimes mids or whatever.
Yep.
So um, it was the experience was something that I wouldn't change. The journey was always just something that I would always try to learn
Yeah.
each year, meeting whatever. And I can say that I wasn't probably the easiest to work with, in the sense of I had this vision that I needed to get out,
Yep.
and if you weren't part of that vision, or you were in the way, it was just a lot of conversations that we were going to have, until we got to a place that we both agreed on, but it was still a part of that vision.
The
Like,
vision. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of instances that I can talk about, that people just question
Mm-hmm.
my my direction, or what I was trying to do with the one, that it was like, yo, we just sold out Jordan ones 10 weekends in a row, or and you're still questioning why this
Why
color,
are
or
you
why this
doing this?
material, why
Uh-huh.
mids are now on back order, to where they're supposed to be the Monday through Friday business, that some distribution channels don't even have enough mids to go or make it through 6 weeks or 7 weeks.
Wow.
So yeah, I just say,
Yeah.
I just say that, what I mean. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm
No,
good.
yeah, no, I think there's something. I mean, regardless of what industry you're in, that I think is valuable is like when you really believe something, like go for it. You know what I mean? Like there's something, because I think a lot of people find themselves kind of. I know I did that once or twice in my career. I'm like, oh, your confidence is like, no, I know I should be doing this, or my confidence level was on the other side of it, or like, actually, no, this isn't the right thing to do, and it's like, actually, no, it
Right.
is. You believe it, like you have the value to back it up, because you've experienced so much over time and building your career, and understanding the culture, and understanding your lane of people that you're working with. It's like, no, this is the reason why. And unfortunately, some
Yeah.
people they like to limit it because of whatever ego reasons that they may have, or things of that nature. And I think that regardless of what industry that you're in, I think that it's so much, what you just said, of just like, go out and go get it. Just go get it.
Yeah.
Take that
Yeah.
step.
Self-awareness and intuition is huge
Hmm.
and maybe not talked about a lot, but the more that you're aware of yourself, what makes you tick, the values that you actually hold, the character that you have, the things that you won't waver against because of your vision or because of what you believe in, and the intuition, because to your point, you've experienced some of these things before. That the more that you are put in these different situations, the more you're really fine tuning your thought process
Yep.
or how you think. And that gut feeling is telling you something. And that is where you want to be because, at the end of the day, only you can let yourself down
Yeah.
if you don't go and do it or if you don't try it or things like that. And it becomes calculated as well. Like these risks come from just outlandish risk or having to try to get somebody to believe in you or to trust you in something to where it's like, this is calculated. I know what I'm doing. I understand what I'm doing. If you don't get it, that's fine. I'll get you there,
Yep.
but we're going to keep going in this direction till I can't go anymore.
Yep. Yep.
But like, so yeah, awareness and intuition for me is like huge and
For
just
sure.
observing and like, taking in information and then understanding that and then whatever the output is the output. But the more you can fine tune that, I think the better you are just with anything.
Yep. For sure. No, I love it, man. Okay, so let's go ahead and transition from there. Like, obviously, spent a career.
Yep.
I mean, product development. Then, what was next for you that you were able to tap in? I
Yeah.
see the circle of winners on the chest, but
Yeah.
what was next for you?
Yeah. So I got to my career and just being ambitious and again having this vision of just what my life is to be or what I want it to be
Yep.
and trying to be in the driver's seat of that as much as I can. And as Nike was shifting, just overall the culture was shifting and doing what I did and being successful with the Jordan ones, it was like, hey, but I always had something pulling at me of like just this entrepreneurial
Yep.
side of me
Yep.
and being a self-starter and really trying to get after things outside of just sneakers and sport. Like I love entertainment. I love to travel. That's probably my biggest passion between traveling and music are like things that I really like get excited for. And so as I got into like my 10th and 10th year in Nike, it was like, do I stay the course and, move up laterally and try to do as much as I can, get moved to another business, probably somewhere on the Nike side or whatever, because that's the thing of like Jordan, go to Nike to then possibly come back to Jordan, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But there was something that was just like, there's more out there for me, and more meaning more to fulfill a purpose.
Yep.
And it was either go and see what that is, or chill and continue to do the best work I can do within Nike or within Jordan.
Be content where you were.
Right. And I made the decision to go out on my own and start my lifestyle brand, Circle of Winners, which is based off of just the mindset and the lifestyle and the mentality. And it's, that's the winner side of it, is like just having a winning mentality no matter what you're doing. It's like trying to get those wins, working hard, persevering, being persistent to get those wins. And then the circle side is really having like-minded people around you that inspire you and that really push you to want to be great, to want to do some things that are like out of this world, or maybe that, because once you build that, there's no pun intended, but like you can't lose,
right?
Because you have that support system that's pushing you and inspiring you. And then the winning side and the mentality of you trying to win and wanting to win just on your own is like will set you up for success. And so Circle of Winners right now is what I'm working on. I also do freelancing and consulting.
Okay.
Like the marketing and product world. And recently I've been in the NIL space, so the name, image, likeness space
Yeah.
for college athletes,
Yeah.
and working with a company that works with the University of Oregon student athletes. So that's been super dope. Like the
I mean,
space has been white space. Like, as an athlete,
yeah.
if I was just, again, I didn't have the best career, but I know I could have got a few bucks out of
A few
my
dollars, you'd have been able to put some gas in the gas tank, go grab a couple
right,
pieces,
right.
more than just the one that you had to share with the roommates type thing. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a different space now. But
It's
yeah, I
a
love
whole new space.
yeah, like I love for you to kind of tap into that a little more because the
Yep.
interesting is like, yes, we're talking about circle of winners, but it's kind of funny in your story of like how it's kind of all come back full circle, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you came in as a student athlete, you played the game, you played football, you go on your career journey with Nike and Jordan, and you found that entrepreneur space that really was in line with what your purpose was, and a part of that is going back and helping student athletes.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, with the circle too, as you get into understanding what a circle is and the shape and all that, it's the strongest shape because no amount of pressure at any point can actually break that shape because it gets distributed into another side of the shape. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that for me it came through being inspired by my teammates and just the people around me. But as I started to build it out as a brand, like it just made so much sense of to your point of just how my life has gone as well as like just these different kind of outside pressures that have happened in my life or things that haven't gone my way, frustrations, um, trials and tribulations and all
Yeah.
that, but like still I'm here, you know what I mean? Like, and with the people that I rock with that have their own story to tell, that inspire me as well. But mentorship has always been cool and a focus on mine and not done in the traditional way of like me calling someone or me calling myself a mentor or having a mentor. It just has happened to that way. Like
Yeah.
people have come to me for advice to hear my story. Like, again, I applaud you for the platform that you're creating because there's so many of us out there or so many, ex athletes or athletes that are going through it now that are trying to figure out what they want to do
What's
the next
next?
step. And what better way than to talk to someone that has already done it,
Yeah.
that can give advice and all that. So, again, getting around some passion and purpose, it's all played itself out the way that it's played itself out. But
Yeah.
that's and also has been just my to take a step back and look at it is like that's how my life has happened. It's
Yeah.
like truly been naturally happening and being a part and being intentional with my time, my energy, my mind space. That nowadays like for even for this NIL space for me is to educate.
Yeah.
It's really to educate and empower these athletes of like, yo, you do have a brand, if you want to call it. You do have, your name that you can really take advantage of and build something special around, whether it is going to the pros and you're now set up as you transition into the
Yep.
pros, or if it's you trying to go work at a Nike or try to do your own thing and be an entrepreneur or whatever it may
Yeah.
be, is like these 4 years or 1 to 4 years, you should be able to take advantage of and educate yourself on what's going on, how you can actually make money, the different streams, what needs to be around you to create a strong brand or
Absolutely.
whatever it may be. Yeah. And it's been dope. Like, I'm back more on like the marketing side of things. So doing a lot of storytelling
Yep.
always been like uh, a key component for me is storytelling and bringing some authenticity to these partnerships that we're doing,
Yep.
telling stories. So yeah, it's been dope, man. It's been real dope.
Yeah.
It's been I don't know what's next in the sense of the space is just ever changing right now because it's so new.
Yeah.
You hear about kids getting $1 million deals to
Man.
kids getting free wings on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
what do you do with that landscape? Like how do
Yeah.
you really be impactful
Yeah.
and create some some unique things. So
Yeah, I think I just read an article yesterday or something like that. The quarterback that just transferred from Oklahoma to USC just signed a NIL deal with Beats. It's like
he's
you get
right.
that, but then you also get the guy or girl who's playing Division 1 or Division 2 or Division 3 in a small city, or
Right.
and they're getting, like you said, they're getting the wings on Wednesdays, or that. It's like, wow, it's crazy. Like the parameters are going to be interesting if there are any at this point in time. You know what I
There
mean?
are none right now. Like, because what's layered over the top of that is like state laws. So
Yeah.
some states allow athletes to not have to post or show any like work of compensation, meaning that a donor so can literally give an athlete $10,000 and be good with that. But then other states is like, no, you have to show proof of work of, hey, I did this photo shoot, I'm
Yep.
posting this ad. Now you get $10,000.
Wow.
Some schools are allowing their athletes to use their logos, word marks, all that. Other schools are like, no, we have too much invested in this brand and in this logo
Right.
that, and we have too much money tied up with
Other
sponsorships that are
sponsorships that they
actually,
have, yeah, that are paying the
so
hundred millions of dollars. Wow.
it's been bananas. And then you get into the side of things that agents are coming around and trying to treat a lot of these athletes that right now don't have as much cachet
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of the world knowing who they are because they've just been college athletes without a name, image, and likeness. So now they do have a name, image, and likeness, and you're trying to treat this athlete like a LeBron James. And it's like,
Yeah.
yo, he's just getting started or she's just getting started. Like she has to build a brand. And that's the
Yeah.
thing about a lot of these athletes in that they'll find out very fast, which it's already like the filtering process is already starting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just how it always happens in sport is that, yeah, everything happens fast and then things start to like filter out. So like, in the NBA or in the NFL, it's not too many cats that are getting multi-million-dollar
Right.
sponsorship deals.
Exactly.
And everyone in college right now thinks they're going to be getting
That's what they're
multi-million.
getting.
It's not going that way.
That's
It's not going
wow.
down like that.
Wow.
So again, that's why, for me, it's like educate them. Financial literacy is huge. Like, because even if
Yeah.
you are getting just $1,000, like, how do you make that $1,000 stretch?
Yep.
How do you do other things, invest in yourself or other like opportunities out there? Do you start to work with other teammates
Yep.
to get into things? So
Yeah.
it's a lot, man, but it's dope. Like to be on the cutting edge of it. And really, I would say the company that we're working with, Division Street, is definitely doing it the right way. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of experts and experience, really a lot of experience of folks that have taken off from Nike over the past couple of years that were successful there that are
Yep.
now working with also Division Street to put some
Nice.
of these athletes in place to get after.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what is actually brought to the table, and I've seen a couple of things you guys been able to do over at Division Street. So I'm excited. The Airbnb piece you guys been doing, so that's really dope. Anyone who's a fan that needs a spot to stay in, you got this kind of luxury Airbnb space that's really been curated by an athlete.
Right.
Which is awesome.
And on that side, you have the athlete that's learning how to manage something
Yeah.
because it's up to them to actually promote to get people to book. And the
Yep.
more they book, the more money you
They're
get.
understanding the business of entrepreneurship. They're
Right.
understanding just a business mindset that you can use whether you're a professional athlete after, or if you happen to just go out and go do your own thing, after
Right.
college,
Right. Right.
So that's incredible, man. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that that's the space that you're in, because we need more people, more representation like you, that know the game, that can really educate them and also understand some of those pitfalls, like you said, financial literacy, the mental space that you need to be in order to catapult yourself beyond that. So, I'm excited to see what the future holds for you in that space.
Yeah. Likewise, same. I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of folks that are like my friends that are creative that are doing things in other space that can get into the space that are like ex-athletes and all that, like, you know what I mean, like yourself and all that. For me, you know, it goes back to, again, circle of winners is like, how do you start to build that ecosystem to really get after this new space and really, like, again, educate. So it's not like we're just in the space to be in the space. It's like in the space to impact and difference and to really, you know, level up and elevate everything that's going on, especially when it's coming from a authentic place.
Yep.
You know, for so long, it's always been other folks kind of getting in the game and doing whatever it is, and the representation hasn't really evened out. But I think with myself and what I have in mind of, again, this vision now that I'm in it is like, I can see where it can go is how do we come together as a collective, as a group to get after and to help these kids that were, you know, that we were in their place years ago.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it. So
for sure. One last question. What's next for Circle of Winners?
What's not, I think, is a thing. There's a lot of things that I have that just working with a good buddy of mine, a mentor of mine, that I do have to like filter, like focus and slow down and like take that next step. But definitely a lot more product coming out, merchandise coming out more consistently. Again, just starting up and learning this whole new process of just entrepreneurship and all that. And really, again, as much as I'm helping these student athletes, I'm also going through the process myself.
Yeah.
And continue to go through that process. But a lot of that, trying to focus on a platform in the next couple of years that just everything that we have spoke about, possibly launching. And yeah, just doing some real dope, collaborative, creative stuff, storytelling. But yeah, I would say in the next 2 or 3 years, there should be some exciting things coming out of Circle of Winners.
Love it, man. I'm excited to see what comes up next. I've been following the journey for a while. Obviously, us getting to know each other and been the homies ever since I stepped foot on campus. So I'm really excited to see it, man, and see what's next. So, well, look, tell the people, you know, people who are listening, where can they follow you at? Where can they follow the journey at?
So Circle of Winners, at Circle of Winners, CRCLOFWNNRS is spelled differently. So we took out the I because there's no I in team, and the E is extra. So the vowels are gone for Circle of Winners. And you follow there personally, smoothsailing.com or smoothsailing21.
Gotcha. Okay.
On IG, both on IG, circleofwinners.com if you want to cop some merch or product.
For sure.
Yeah, you know, the great words of Nipsey Hussle, the marathon continues.
The marathon continues. My dude, man, G. Garren Strong, appreciate you being here on the Second Half Podcast. For all those, I'll be sure to put the information down for you to go ahead and tap into Garren and Circle of Winners. Additionally, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We will be back with more episodes. Hit the website, hit Instagram, or wherever you listen to podcast content. We're excited. We'll be back another episode here soon. Peace.